On Thursday, Feb 25, 2001, the Mary W. Jackson NASA headquarters sign was positioned ahead of the structure naming ceremony, which took place at NASA headquarters in Washington. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine declared on Wednesday the agency's headquarters in Washington, D.C. will be called after Mary W. Jackson, the first African female engineer who worked in NASA. Ever since the news busted, people have been going crazy about NASA's headquarters. Well, all of us at some point in our lives have thought about what happens at the NASA headquarters. How does it look? How do people work there? And so much more. Without wasting much time, let's get right into it. NASA headquarters, formerly known as Mary W. Jackson NASA headquarters or NASA HQ and previously called 2 Independence Square, is a low-rise office building in the 2-building Independence Square network at 300 East Street SW in Washington, D.C. The building accommodates NASA leadership who implement overall guidance and direction to the U.S. Government Administrative Branch Agency, NASA, under the guidelines of the NASA Administrator. 10 field centers and diversity of installations around the country handle the day-to-day work. This government location is outfitted with portable partition offices and furniture workspace everywhere in the facility. Each floor comprises 3 mechanical, electrical, and communications hub areas along with new mechanical devices and cabling. Additional comforts including a TV station, data center, auditoriums, fitness clubs, wellness station, credit union, conference room, audio-visual rooms, gallery areas, and different sets of newly renovated women's and men's restrooms per floor. NASA headquarters is classified into 4 mission directorates: Aeronautics, Exploration Systems, Science, and Space Operations. NASA headquarters in Washington gives overall guidance and regulations to the agency under the leadership of the administrator. 10 field centers and a variety of establishments around the country conduct day-to-day operation in labs, on airfields, in wind tunnels, and in control chambers. Together, this proficient, distinct group of scientists, engineers, managers, and support personnel share the vision, mission, and excellence that are NASA. To fulfill NASA's mission, NASA headquarters is organized into 5 principal structures called mission directorates. Aeronautics pioneers and demonstrates new flight technologies that enhances NASA's ability to explore and which will have possible applications on Earth. Human exploration and operations centers on International Space Station mission and human exploration beyond low Earth orbit. Science investigates the Earth, Moon, Mars, and beyond, outlines the best route of discovery, and reaps the interests of Earth and space exploration for society. Space technology, a catalyst for the formulation of technologies and innovation required to sustain NASA leadership in space while also profiting America's economy. Mission support, supervise the management of the institutional function areas that support the agency mission. Aeronautics, NASA isn't just about spaceflight and space science. As the name says, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration makes it clear. In fact, the parent of the company was the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA, which was established in 1915. The Aeronautics Mission Directorate strives to make air travel smoother and more reliable. The directorate has 3 main purposes: improve gate-to-gate mobility in the national's commercial air transportation system, 2. Reduce aircraft noise, emissions, and fuel use, as well as the overall environmental impact on communities surrounding airports, and 3. Maintain or improve aircraft safety. In 2016, NASA started New Aviation Horizons. The new drive feature explains a group of experimental aircraft to examine the latest ideas related to flight. Aeronautic research goes down at 4 of NASA's 10 centers: Ames Research Center in Moffett Field, California, Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base in California, Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, Ohio, and Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. The Aeronautics Mission Directorate introduced $660 million in the White House's budget request for the year 2017. Of President Trump's recommended 2018 budget, NASA's acting administrator Robert Lightfoot said in a report, "This budget also keeps aeronautic on stable footing, allowing us to continue our forward movement in many areas, including the Aviation Horizon Initiative." Human exploration and operation. This directorate oversees NASA's human spaceflight plans in low Earth orbit and beyond. Most of the work is linked with $100 billion International Space Station, which has treated astronauts continuously since 2000. Human Exploration and Operation (HEO) also manages the space agency's efforts to train the arising American private spaceflight unit, which NASA requires to fill the crew and cargo carrying shoes of the eliminated Space Shuttle fleet. That includes the Commercial Crew and Cargo Program (C3PO), with the performance goal to extend human presence in space by enabling and expanding a robust U.S. commercial space transportation industry. Despite concerns that at least 2 American commercial spaceships would be set to ferry astronauts to and from the space station by 2017, the date has been driven back due to safety matters. The firm has also inked deals with 2 organizations, California-based SpaceX and Virginia-based Orbital Science Corp, to make stock runs to the orbiting laboratories with unmanned craft. But NASA is also struggling to get people to Mars and other deep space addresses. To make this happen, the Bureau is developing a huge rocket called a Space Launch System, plus a capsule known as Orion. However, in a propulsion conference of the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics held in July 2017, Bill Gerstenmaier, head of HEO, replied to a question about when NASA will carry humans to the exterior of Mars by responding, "I can't put a date on humans on Mars, and the reason really is, the other piece is, at the budget levels we described, this roughly 2% increase, we don't have the surface systems available for Mars. And that entry, descent, and landing is a huge challenge for us for Mars." The HEO Directorate is new. Having been established in August 2011, it connects 2 previous directorates, which were identified as Space Operations and Exploration System. HEO secured $4.3 billion for exploration and $4.9 billion for space developments in 2017. NASA field stations that are key to the purpose and activities of this directorate incorporate Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, Houston's Johnson Space Center, and Marshall Space Flight Center in Alabama. Science. The Science Mission Directorate operates NASA's many scientific and unmanned research activities, which the space agency splits into 4 main areas: Earth science, planetary science, heliophysics, and astrophysics. The Directorate's cosmic horizon is thus vast, spanning missions that investigate Earth from space to unmanned efforts that explore other planets such as Mars and Jupiter, to space telescopes that peer to the very edge of the perceptible universe. For example, science supervises the $2.5 billion Mars Science Laboratory mission, which launched the 1-ton Curiosity rover onto the red planet's surface on August 5, 2012, and is liable for the $8.8 billion James Webb Space Telescope, the replacement to the Hubble Space Telescope that's slated for a 2019 launch. The Science Mission Directorate is making $5.7 billion in the authorized 2017 federal budget. Under Trump's 2018 plan, the budget for planetary science would rise. The budget for Earth science would reduce. Of that funds, Lightfoot responded, "Overall science funding is stable. Although some missions in development will not go forward and others will see increases, we remain committed to studying our home planet and the universe, but are reshaping our focus within the resources available to us. A budget not far from where we have been in recent years and which enables our wide-ranging science work on many fronts." NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, has conducted many of the space agency's robotic exploration missions across the years. Various other NASA field centers play a vital role in the Science Mission Directorate's projects, including Ames, the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt. Space technology. Lastly, coming towards the Space Technology Unit. The Space Technology Mission Directorate focuses on advancing the technologies NASA demands its continuing and future missions. For example, effective solar electric propulsion operations that agency officials say will be essential to crewed Mars effort down the road. Such work is not limited to NASA's research centers. Technology development usually occurs via partnerships with government corporations in the United States and abroad, as well as with academia and private firms. Space technology is receiving $686.5 million in 2017, about 3.5% of NASA's total funds for the year. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit the like, subscribe to our channel, and share these videos with your friends.